Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to the Outsiders channel. Today we're going to finish off the Challenge Outsiders questions. I'm going to try and do this over one or two videos to wrap that up. Certainly interesting. I think I may do this each week. I think a Challenge Outsiders program is a much better way to go through immediate mail slots and get them done that week, which is a much better way, because once I advertise for questions I seem to get inundated with lots of emails, which is great. But it's impossible then to sift through. This way you can get a comment on your channel and respond to it really rapidly and people know the answer is going to be there, which I quite like. So that's probably the way I'm going to continue. So without further ado, and I'm just going to bring up the first question, so bear with me a second while I do that. And this is a continuation from Blackjack Rabbit 1970, who asks, the spell focus, I was thinking of using a character that summons and saw that augment summoning required spell focus conjuration. As it's written, spell focus only increases the DC of the save by 1. It does seem like a bit of a waste to him. Since summoning has no saving throw, what I propose instead is to increase the caster level by 1. This would not increase the spell cap, just get you there faster, basically, get the more creatures quicker. My reason comes from the same argument from Weapon Focus. The feat lets you attack at +1, in effect 1 level higher. A fighter, etc., who chooses the focus would then also be able to get extra attacks at level 5 instead of level 6. In effect, the base attack. No, that's actually wrong. Actually, you don't get extra attacks at just because you've got spell focus. It has to be your actual base attack improving, and it has to reach 6 before you actually get 2 attacks. So on that part, Black Rabbit, you're actually, in the nicest way, that's not right. I take your argument at the beginning. If we take from the very beginning here and discuss the idea of actually making the spells, you cast them 1 level higher. There are a number of actual unique different prestige classes and various other things I've read about that increase the level of summoning by 1. I would have no problem with that actually as an argument, and it does make sense what you propose about the fact that it only increases DC by 1, and in this case, because of the fact that it's summoning, there is no save, doesn't seem to make an awful lot of difference. Yeah, it's a valid point. I don't think it's a game breaker or a deal changer, as they say. So I would go with that personally. I would, if a player had that sort of argument, I personally think there are many ways the GM can kindly press summon creatures. And on the back of that, actually, it's going to be good to actually raise, because you brought it up and it's a good one to raise. I had an interest, when I mentioned about pressing players, I got some interesting emails about, do you think you're being harsh on the players? And the truth is that, guys, as GMs, it's our responsibility to act intelligently when faced with a problem that the enemy are going to deal with. It's basic Fighter 101. Somebody's casting spells at the back. What do? You try to knock out, if they're standing there and you've got an opportunity, you try to disrupt it. You would be an absolute fool if you didn't learn that in basic Fighter 101. That is not being difficult on the players. That is just being reality. If you don't do this, the players will just keep casting summon, and within 3 or 4 rounds, your combat challenge ratings are blown out the water. And it really, really doesn't work. I do have a proposal actually on summoning that could, if you're of the DM mindset that allows the summoning in, I think there are 2 ways to go. I think the suggestion that was given was a good one in regards to only 1 active summons at a time. But also what you could argue is the fact that the summoned creatures also gain a share of the experience points. So the more that are actually there, the less the share there is to the players. Worth considering, I think, as another base argument to it. But let's leave that there for another time, because I think we could talk about summoning for ages, and we are going to have to try and do this over a couple of videos. I got asked a question by Dragonfall Cast, who asked the question, what happened to the Gladiator stuff, the videos you were doing? I had to stop doing the Gladiator stuff for a very simple reason. Out of all the videos I've done, those were the ones that got the most amount. I got the most amount of stick from them, and I understand the reasons why I got the issues. But people don't understand because they're just sitting back and want to play a character out. The amount of characters that we got sent through that were poorly written on pieces, literally photocopied paper, poor spreadsheets. Bits of small segments all over the place. You'd have to spend probably the best part to dissect someone's character and really know it inside out. You'd probably have to, and with the way they were written, you'd probably have to spend a few hours before every attempt at videoing to do that. and it was unrealistic. And I think I can take in information really well, but I ran them super swift and super fast, based on, you know, trying to produce a fun video that would make it interesting in those fights. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way that I would have liked, and I didn't really enjoy where it was heading. So it was better to end it at that point and learn from it and move on. The next time we'll come back and, you know, we'll think about it in a different way. So that's the reason why, to be honest with you, Andrew, that I actually had no option but to change it, to be honest with you, and stop doing them. So that brings me on to my third question, which is from Wolfden here. When you're having a bad day in your personal life, wife's on PMS, that's a great one, friends being annoying, car won't start, and all this is happening, and you're just plain mad at the start of one of your gaming sessions, does that emotion carry into gaming, and do you become a GM killer? No, I don't become a GM killer. I am regarded as a very tough GM because I do follow through the intelligence of the creatures fairly. I roll all my dice openly, and the one thing I do, if you ever get an opportunity to see this, I'd suggest you have a look at my Invisible Monkeys program. It's going to sound odd if you've never seen the video, well worth a look. I'll try and put a link at the bottom of this because I think it's worth having a look at that video. What that's all about is leaving these problems behind at the door, and it's critical as a GM that you put all aside. Almost, it's like being, initially as you go into the game, you almost have to become emotionless. I think one of the reasons why I've always run on nervous energy is that when I get up to someone's door, I have a little routine that I go through, and that allows me, because I'm so focused then, so almost hungry for the game, that my pure energy and my focus is purely on that game and those players around that table to entertain them. So no, I don't go out of my way to become a GM killer, and I certainly don't bring my problems into the room because I know the impact that has on my players. They need to see you on the highest level that you can be performance-wise on that day. It's like being a top athlete, like being a great actor. You've got to bring your A game every time, and that's what GMing is all about. So hopefully that answers your question. I think there's time for a couple more in this programme. Hopefully we'll see how far we go. Darsephone, I'll never get this right. Darsephones, some time ago you made a great video on how to run Pathfinder RPG. Can you make one please about Warhammer 3rd Edition? I can't make one on Warhammer 3rd Edition because to do so would require, to be perfectly honest with you, a mountain of videos. It would take a very long time to do. But what I can do, in a nutshell, is do a quick video at the end of this one. I'll do a quick video on your question, and stay tuned for that one. And I'll show you a very quick thing that you can do in Warhammer that will help you GM. That is the absolute crux of all the ability to run in Warhammer. So we'll cover that for you. How's that? The next question is Shane O'Mac135 asks, I've been DMing for about 5 years now. Maybe this comes with more practice, but how do you make getting hurt in combat injury and death more meaning to the players? Don't fear combat. They have a mentality of, oh, it's the priest can heal whatever happens to us. That never happens in any of my games. Pressing the players, the ability to make combats feel realistic. I roll the dice all open. If you ever do get a chance to see the secret video 1, you'll now understand when you've seen that video, and you only have to ask, you'll understand why I roll the dice openly. There's a particular reason. It creates fear, the dice will throw up unusual results, and the bottom line is that is truly challenging. You're not fudging anything. They have to respond to that as players, and it brings the fear factor up tenfold, because when those dice are being rolled openly, you never know what's going to happen. And the temptation is, as a GM, is when you're behind a screen rolling dice, you might roll a critical, genuine, a roll of 20, then another 20. You do it once, it's okay. You do it twice, do you call it? You start to doubt yourself whether people are going to believe everything you say. Of course you're being fair and honest, you're only calling out the results. But also the interpretation around the table. It's amazing how players' minds think. When it's out in front of them, you can't argue it. And the damage becomes more of a reality. And when you're dealing with combats, you want to make your combats as interesting as possible. Everything, all the fights shouldn't necessarily be out in front of people. It could be waves of attacks and various other things. And again, it's well worth looking at the back catalogue of videos we've done to have a look into that. Anyway, that's the first part of finishing off my questions today. When we come back in part 2, I will start with Darsephones about Warhammer, and we will continue on to the final questions. But thank you very much for asking them. We will continue this as a programme, I think, each week. I've been Sean Connors. This has been Outsiders. Take care of yourselves and happy gaming.